There is a provision for free flow of workers, just like in the European Union. What that means is unrestricted immigration. It means literally that Congress would not have the authority to restrict immigration. And the Democrats are opposing this. It is entirely Republican votes that are pushing it, and they just don't understand what's in the damn bill.
Dick Morris on this program earlier this week, warning against the 12-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership. You heard Dick say it right there, that this bill would open the door to unrestricted immigration among workers. Now, it's worth noting that the Senate Finance Committee last night fast-tracked this bill by a vote of 20-6. Will the House of Representatives, specifically the Ways and Means Committee, follow suit? Chairman Paul Ryan saying that fast-track vote will take place today. And here's the irony. The TPP largely supported by Republicans, and Democrats who have that affiliation with labor unions saying, hang on a second, we're not so sure about this. Obviously, we need to get into this story and find out more about it. And to do so, let's call on my former congressional colleague, Michael Patrick Flanagan, who joins us from Newsmax, Washington. That is also the site where we welcome in the former governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore. And gentlemen, before we move forward with this particular story, we need to talk about the news made this morning from the White House, the announcement of the counter-terror efforts. Mike, in addition to being a former congressman, you're a former Army officer, and of course, Jim Gilmore headed up a Federal Counterterrorism Task Force. Michael Patrick Flanagan, a counter-terror operation, two that the president spoke of this morning, the deaths of two hostages, one an American, one an Italian national. Your reaction to that news breaking earlier today from the White House?
Well, it's a tragic circumstance, and it as Professor Dershowitz and your other guests have all noticed this morning, that it's inevitable. And it's a tragic and sad thing, but it is inevitable. What's not inevitable is that this administration at the very beginning reclassified any adult male in shouting distance of the target that gets killed is presumed to be an enemy combatant or with the target. That was an effort to close off the optics on this so that there's no collateral damage and that they can run up their kill total on bad guys. Now they had to unplug that with two Americans who died and reclassify and redefine that. That might have something to do with the lag time here, but believe me, it wasn't about the CIA identifying him and getting all the ground stuff together and actually informing the families. This was about actually now having to discuss collateral damage, which the president has not had to do at all in his drone strikes up till now.
And what was interesting this morning, Governor Gilmore, the president did not mention the killing of the two Americans who had joined al-Qaida in one operation, it's believed, where the two hostages likewise died. Ahmed Farouk perished. And then in a separate action, Adam Gadon, the American who earned his share of infamy for his very active role in the al-Qaida leadership, apparently he was killed. And yet the president made no mention of the killing of those two men who rightfully could be defined as enemy combatants. Why do you think the president avoided that this morning, Jim?
I have no idea why he avoided that. I think it's a straightforward thing. Anybody that joins the military or the guerrilla operations of people who are enemies to the United States are traitors. They're traitors. And by putting themselves on the battlefield in this guerrilla war, they do subject themselves to being either taken back, which would be good, or killed by a drone strike. But it does, I think that the former congressman is exactly right. I think it reawakens the whole issue of American policy with respect to drone strikes and collateral damage. The president says he takes responsibility. What does that mean? It means, I guess, that he's going to have to explain why the potential collateral damage is justified under these circumstances. It reawakens the entire debate on the question of how you deal with the guerrilla warfare of al-Qaida.
Michael Patrick Flanagan, you're one of those rare Republicans from Chicago who won political office to serve in Washington. Is there a Chicago angle to this that you can explain to us in terms of the president's action today?
Well, if you can define anyone who dies in a drone strike as an enemy combatant, you never have to talk about collateral damage because, by definition, there is no collateral damage. Their same view with executive orders. You know, a signature, a smile, and it's law. Yay! And so whoever dies in a drone strike is considered a combatant. So I never have to talk about the Syrians, the Iraqis, anyone else on planet Earth that I've killed, perhaps as collateral damage rather than as a combatant. I never have to talk about that. But now I do, because they're two Americans, and now I got to talk about collateral damage. And so I'm going to get out in front of this in a hurry and look very sad and do my best to tamp this down as a long-term discussion.
There's always a political element to this, and obviously political elements and policy implications for the story we originally contacted you gentlemen to talk about. That is a looming vote on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Governor Gilmore, we just heard Dick Morris say, hang on a second, it's going to create a situation like the EU in terms of unlimited immigration among the signees. His concern, more influx of Mexicans into the United States. Is that a legitimate concern in your view?
I think we need to focus on the trade issues, J.D. And free trade is intended to grow the economy. And as you know, everything that I've been talking about this political year and also through my nonprofit at Free Congress Foundation is to support economic growth. And that's what we have to have. And a free trade agreement is designed to do that. It can do that. Now, I will also tell you, as I anticipate maybe you would be concerned about, these secret agreements are problematic. Free trade agreement and the presidential authority is intended to enable there to be an actual deal without a lot of wrangling and debate that can go on that can upset the deal. But I'm not in favor of secret negotiations or without transparency. If it's a good deal for the citizens of the people of these countries, then it ought to be made more transparent, and we ought to have a chance to honestly debate it. Well, finally, let's remember that trade authority still says that the Congress has veto power over this, and but it seems to me the responsibility is now on the Congress to play its role and make sure that any deal is a good deal for the people of the United States.
Speaking of that, the Ways and Means Committee poised to take a fast-track vote as the Senate Finance Committee did last night. The chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, my old colleague Paul Ryan, is speaking out in favor of this agreement, and he says it's because of China. Let's listen to what Paul had to say.
If we want more jobs, if we want higher paying jobs, and trade-based jobs typically pay more, we need to open up markets to our products so that we can make and grow more things in America and send them overseas. If we sit by and do nothing, then China will write the rules of the global economy, particularly in Asia, to China's benefit, and that will not be to the benefit of the American worker.
Well, final 45 seconds to Michael Patrick Flanagan. Mike, do you agree with Paul Ryan? And what about what Dick Morris is warning us about? This is a backdoor to increased immigration from people who will just be able to ignore our immigration laws.
Well, if indeed that's in the bill, it needs to come out. And the governor's right. This doesn't have to be secret negotiations. And any time that the most open administration in the history of the Republic has a secret negotiations, which, by the way, is every time, we need to look harder at the bill. I think we should not fast-track this. We should have careful consideration in the Congress. Trade is important. The governor's right. Paul's right. We need good trade, but we don't need secret negotiations, and we certainly don't need to give up sovereignty of our borders.
And on that note, gentlemen, you have our thanks. Former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore and former United States Congressman from Illinois, Michael Patrick Flanagan, both of those gentlemen joining us from Newsmax, Washington, to talk about the big news, the American hostage killed in that counter-terror operation, and also the looming debate on Trans-Pacific Partnership. Back with our political panel after this.